for the first time since the start of the pandemic, the Boston Pops are back with an in-person spring season. And while we'd already gotten a taste of that return to live in-person music with Tanglewood and the Holiday Pops, there's something about that spring sense of renewal and new hope that feels fit for celebration. And the Pops have been delivering with fitting songs like this one.
Our command is your request. It's been years since we've had anybody here, and we're obsessed.
Obsessed is right, and I'm joined now by none other than Keith Lockhart. Keith, welcome to Greater Boston. So great to see you again. What a spring in my step that's given me.
Well, thank you, Sue. It has given all of us a spring in our step. I can't imagine, I can't remember a time in my 27 years where everybody has seemed so happy to be going back to work as this orchestra is. It's really been great to see people back in Symphony Hall. We're not 100% yet. We don't have 100% of the audience or quite 100% of the season, but things are really going well. And people who are here, it's like giving a man water who's dying of thirst. They are just so hungry for the material and so receptive for what they get.
I was talking with Cliff Notes yesterday, who performed at Boston Calling over the weekend, and he and I stay in touch via social media. And he's been sharing just the difficulties of keeping his mood up and keeping his community of artists, their moods up during this pandemic. How have you, obviously you played a little bit earlier, but how have you and your crew stayed positive and stayed connected during it?
Well, I think speaking for my fellow musicians, my fellow performing artists, it is this period of time, of course, has been hard on everybody, but it's been hard on us, not just only kind of in the existential crisis, is there going to be a performing arts world when we come back out of this, but even more, I think, right to the core of who we are. I mean, what I identified as for the last 40 years was somebody who went out and brought music to people, brought these kind of live experiences to people, and hopefully left them with, something special to take away. And not doing that for, a year and a half is really enervating. And so I think all of us have been clinging to the hope that, when this was all over, people would remember even more how important it is to us as humans to gather together in community and enjoy these things together. And so far, that seems to be working. I'm hoping it continues.
I always joke, whenever you watch a movie and they have a concert scene, everyone in the audience is thrilled to be there, right? Where in real life, somebody's always being dragged that doesn't want to be there, or something's happening in their life. I'm sure you see them occasionally just sitting there like, oh, he or she made me came.
Yeah. It's usually the husband with the wife next to him going, wow, this is great, honey. And the guy's going,
yeah.
But I'd rather be watching.
I bet you look out over the audience right now and you are just seeing nothing but beaming, appreciative faces.
There is a lot of joy. You can feel kind of, I've never felt, as I said, in 40 plus years of doing this, I've never felt so much love, to sound, not to at the risk of sounding corny, this sort of love coming back and forth between the stage and the audience. Everybody on the stage, even the most traditionally grumpy performers are like, wow, I'm really lucky to be able to do this. And the audiences, we're really lucky to be able to receive it. So.
Well, let's take a little listen and look at what happened last night. Tony nominee Christopher Jackson, he headlined the show last night with the Boston Pops. He's back again tonight. Here he is, a little taste of him singing one of his original songs, Paralyzed. What a great season thus far. I had been hoping to get to either the Disney or the Star Wars. COVID had other plans for us, but what a great way to sort of reopen to spring. Disney music and that music is no longer kids' music anymore, since we were listening to it when we were little and now we're adults. Talk about the choice of the spring concerts, the spring music.
Well, we really wanted to put a season forward that was welcoming to as many different people as we possibly could. And you're right, this Disney material that thank you for including me generously in that when we were kids. I was a little past being a kid when the great Menken movies like Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid came out, but I certainly remember them. And now we're talking about basically 3 generations who have grown up on that music. So it has really become a modern classic, and it's like the Harry Potter films. It's not just the kids who like them anymore. It's the parents who might have been dragged kicking and screaming originally, and that the same held true all the way through the year. We've been celebrating John's 90th birthday. John Williams, the composer of Star Wars, of course, and of the Harry Potter movies. So we did 2 back-to-back movies, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and The Empire Strikes Back, which were both really successful, and they're really coming out, people coming out of the woodwork to help celebrate John's amazing, as he goes into his 10th decade. And this week we still have, and you're not too late yet, Sue, we still have 4 performances remaining, one with Christopher Jackson, and then 2 more with a program I'm very proud of, featuring Brian Stokes Mitchell, a program called Duke Ellington Reimagined, which I just think we just came back from rehearsal on that today, and I was just so buoyed by how great the music is and how amazingly the orchestra is performing it. Then we close with Gospel Night on the 11th of June, and then we'll see you in the 4th of July at Tanglewood.
Right, right. So talk to me as an artist, when you hear the music being played for an audience with the audience there, especially since we've been through this drought, do you physically feel it differently than maybe you did before when you were playing in front of an audience regularly?
Well, I think, that's a great question. I think it's easier to answer it by what you don't feel when you perform it virtually, when there's just cameras in an empty hall, as we did for 18 months, as we're used to, when we do recordings, for instance. But in that situation, we know that we're going back to live performance. And for the last couple of years, we've wondered whether that was going to happen. There is definitely musical performance, any artistic live performing art is a two-way street. It is something that we put out there for people to accept, to feel, to react to. And that's true of live theater and dance as well. And the feeling of what comes back, the love, whatever word you want to use, the response is palpable on stage. And it is when you tape a show, no matter how I'm grateful that we were able to stay in contact and perform, but there's an emptiness that nothing can really fill, because you're kind of putting those notes and those thoughts and those emotions out there and not getting anything reflected back. And that's the thing that I think I feel most acutely now. The other thing I've told people is that, no matter how lucky I am to be in this particular business and have this particular job, there's always times when things feel like work. But I will never get out of bed and go, oh, I can't believe I have to do another concert today. It's all going to be all gratitude from here on out, baby.
I hear you. I absolutely hear you. And speaking of giving back, I want to play something again from last night. This is an excerpt from of the song Little Women that's sung by Natick High School student Leah Steinman. The concert last night featured winners of the Fidelity Investments Young Artist Competition. She was one of those winners, and she received mentoring from both you and also Christopher Jackson. Let's take a look.
Here I go. There's no turning back. My great adventure has begun. I may be small, but I've got giant plans to shine as brightly as the sun.
Keith, I don't have to tell you this, but it has been such a challenge for young singers, new singers, to keep their artistry, to develop it, to search it, to find places to sing in person in front of audiences. The past 2 years have really hindered that. How have you kept inspiring these young singers to just keep at it during this adversity?
Well, we have this wonderful relationship with Fidelity now. For 13 years, we have looked throughout Massachusetts for the most interesting and best young high school performers, really kind of in any genre of musical performance. Last night we had 4 of them. Leah was actually the oldest of them at 17, and they ranged down to 14, and they were amazing musicians, gifted communicators, poised on stage. They were just wonderful. But I did think a lot over these last couple of years of, I have, well, if you count since I was 7, like 55 years of performance experience to lean back on when I'm coming back into this, and I'm remembering what it is to be a performer, how one is a performer, how one comports themselves, how one deals with nerves, all of those things. And just like anything else in development, as we've worried about our kids coming out on the other side of COVID, they don't have that wealth of experience. They're fresh, and this is cutting them off at the knees at a really critical time in their development. So I think this competition is more important than it's ever been. Last year we did it, but we did it virtually. There was no live audience for them, which is so important. And we weren't even allowed to have the vocalist on stage with us. We had to record her virtually. So this year, feeling that we have some connection with these young people was just amazing. I think that, like anything else, even though we worry about them, they tend to be a lot more resilient than we do. So,
Well, I'm wondering, are you feeling like invigorated and filled with gusto and ready to go? Are we looking at another, 40 years of Keith Lockhart ahead of us? Or are we going to get up to the Arthur Fiedler numbers? I mean, or what's going on here?
well, I'm at 27 years with Boston Pops. I'm already in the number 2 position, and that's kind of laughable because I'm still 23 years away from catching the leader. So he lapped me a few times. I have to say, I am at the darkest days of the pandemic. I said to myself, gee, I don't know. I wish, if I were 10 years older, I would just kind of say, no, it's time. It would be a great time to retire. And if I were 10 years younger, I'd be, jumping out of bed and leading the troops, leading the charge. And as it was, I'm somewhere in that middle position. But having come out on the other end and realized how much I missed it and how wonderful it still feels to be able to make a contribution, I think it's reinvigorated me. But I can pretty much guarantee you, I'll say this right here on the air, that I will not match Arthur Fiedler's record, because I'm not sure that 50 years in the same position is good for either the person or the institution. So.
Well, we'll check back. I'm going to write that down, and we'll check back.
That's me another 5 years.
I will indeed. Keith Lockhart, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you virtually. Can't wait to see you in person. Thank you.
Great to talk to you, Sue. Take care.